was a stormy night when I found myself alone at the gas station at the edge of town. The rain pounded on the roof, creating an eerie symphony that echoed through the empty pumps. Fluorescent lights flickered, casting long, ominous shadows across the deserted lot. Little did I know, this night would be etched into my memory as the night I encountered true terror. The shift started like any other. I manned the cash register, the only source of warmth in the desolate convenience store. The hum of the refrigerators and the distant thunder outside provided a haunting backdrop to the monotonous beeping of the scanner. As the hours crawled by, the isolation of the night began to weigh on me. A chilling wind rattled the windows, and the lights flickered once more. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me from the darkness outside. I glanced nervously at the security cameras, half expecting to see a pair of eyes staring back at me. But the monitors revealed nothing but the rain-soaked parking lot. Just as I started to convince myself that my imagination was playing tricks on me, a figure emerged from the shadows. A hooded silhouette, moving with deliberate slowness, approached the store. My heart raced as I watched the figure draw nearer, the rain dripping from the edge of the hood concealing their face. The automatic door creaked open, and a gust of cold wind accompanied the figure inside. The hooded stranger walked with an unnatural stillness, heading straight for the aisle at the back of the store. Panic gripped me as I wondered if they had ill intentions. I mustered the courage to ask if they needed assistance. No response. The stranger continued down the narrow aisles, their steps echoing ominously. I followed, the floor creaking beneath me. As they reached the end of the aisle, the lights flickered violently, casting the figure in brief flashes of darkness. It was then I saw it, their face, or lack thereof. A void where features should be, a darkness that seemed to absorb the feeble light. I stumbled backward, the weight of fear bearing down on me. The hooded figure turned slowly, and in that moment, I knew I was not dealing with a mere mortal. The air grew colder as a guttural whisper echoed through the store, chilling me to the bone. It spoke of ancient shadows and forgotten fears. The lights went out, plunging the gas station into complete darkness. I fumbled for my phone, desperate for any source of light. In the dim glow, I saw the figure now right in front of me, its face inches from mine. The void seemed to expand, threatening to consume everything. And then, as suddenly as it began, the figure vanished. The lights flickered back on, revealing the empty store. I stood there, trembling, trying to comprehend the inexplicable horror I had just witnessed. As dawn approached, the storm began to subside. I stumbled out of the gas station, my mind still reeling from the night's events. I couldn't shake the feeling that the hooded figure was still watching from the shadows. To those who hear this tale, beware the desolation of the night. Some mysteries are best left unexplored. As the rain-soaked gas station fades into the distance, remember this: there are things in the darkness that defy explanation, and sometimes it's better not to seek the answers that lie beyond the veil of the unknown. It was a dark and stormy night when I reluctantly clocked in for my graveyard shift at McDonald's. The rain beat against the windows like impatient fingers, and the distant rumble of thunder created an eerie soundtrack for the night ahead. Little did I know, this would be a shift that would haunt my dreams forever. The restaurant, devoid of customers at this ungodly hour, felt like a desolate island in the sea of darkness. I went about my routine, flipping burgers and assembling orders, trying to ignore the eerie stillness that clung to the air. The flickering fluorescent lights cast long, ominous shadows that danced with every creak of the aging floorboards. As the clock struck midnight, an unsettling hush settled over the restaurant. I was wiping down the counters when I heard the low hum of an engine outside. Glancing through the rain-streaked windows, I spotted a sleek black Range Rover parked in the shadows. Odd, considering we were the only building for miles. I returned to my duties, the unease lingering like a bad taste. That's when the drive-through intercom crackled to life, a distorted voice ordering a Happy Meal for Sarah. Bewildered, I prepared the order and handed it over to the shadowy figure in the Range Rover. The air turned colder as the car pulled away, leaving me with a shiver that ran down my spine. Just as I thought it couldn't get stranger, a pale figure appeared at the counter. A ghostly 5-year-old girl, her eyes hollow and fixated on me. She whispered, "I'm lost. Can you help me find my mommy?" Frozen with fear, I nodded, leading her to the door. As she stepped into the night, she dissolved into mist, leaving behind only the echo of her laughter. The night descended into a series of bizarre occurrences. The Freyr sputtered to life on its own. Spatulas levitated in midair, and whispers echoed through the empty dining area. The walls seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, and the once familiar surroundings transformed into a labyrinth of terror. As the clock approached 3 a.m., the atmosphere thickened. In a haze, I found myself in the employee restroom, staring into the mirror. My reflection grinned menacingly, a twisted version of myself. Panicking, I stumbled backward, only to be met with the cold touch of a phantom hand on my shoulder. The voice in my head whispered, "You're not alone." With a surge of terror, I fled the restroom, the haunting laughter of the ghostly girl echoing in my ears. The restaurant became a maze of distorted reality, my footsteps drowned out by the pounding of my heart. Desperate to escape, I burst through the back door into the rain-soaked night. Gasping for breath, I found myself in the deserted parking lot, the black Range Rover still idling. The distorted voice from the intercom spoke again, this time emanating from the shadows. "You served well. We'll meet again." As the Range Rover vanished into the night, I stood alone, drenched and trembling. The first light of dawn painted the horizon, dispelling the darkness that clung to McDonald's. It was over, but the haunting memories lingered. My advice to anyone working the graveyard shift: beware the witching hours, for the veil between the living and the supernatural is thin. And if you find yourself at a deserted McDonald's in the dead of night, beware the black Range Rover and the ghostly 5-year-old girl, for they are not what they seem. The night was dark and silent as I approached the ominous gates of Oakwood Funeral Home. The air was thick with an eerie stillness that sent shivers down my spine. As the new night shift security guard, I was prepared for a quiet and uneventful night, but little did I know that I was about to step into a realm where the dead came to life, if only for a short while. The funeral home, a grand but ominous structure, loomed against the moonlit sky. My footsteps echoed through the empty courtyard as I approached the entrance. The heavy wooden door creaked as I pushed it open, and the faint smell of embalming chemicals greeted me. I shivered, telling myself it was just nerves. The manager, a stern-looking man with sunken eyes, handed me a set of keys and a list of rules. "Follow these and you'll get through the night without trouble," he muttered, his gaze never leaving mine. I glanced at the rules. Strange instructions about avoiding certain corridors after midnight and never interrupting the mourners in the main hall. I settled into the small security room, monitoring the silent hallways through grainy CCTV cameras. Hours passed, and the monotony threatened to lull me to sleep. Just as I was about to doze off, the cameras flickered and the screens filled with static. I rubbed my eyes, convinced it was just a glitch. A distant sound echoed through the hallways, a soft murmur that sent chills down my spine. I grabbed the flashlight and cautiously ventured into the dimly lit corridors. The air felt heavier, and shadows danced on the walls. As I turned a corner, I froze. Before me stood a figure clad in funeral attire, its face obscured by shadows. My heart raced as the figure slowly turned its head to face me. Hollow eyes stared into mine, and a cold wind whispered through the hallway. Panic surged through me, and I stumbled backward, crashing into a row of caskets. The figure remained still, watching me with an intensity that made my blood run cold. Terrified, I fumbled for my radio, calling for backup. The response was nothing but static. The rules echoed in my mind. Avoid certain corridors after midnight. I had broken the first rule, and now I was trapped in a nightmare. Desperation fueled my steps as I tried to navigate the labyrinthine corridors, the whispers growing louder with each turn. The mournful voices of the departed surrounded me, recounting tales of sorrow and regret. I stumbled upon the main hall, where a dim light flickered above an open casket. In that moment, the mourners turned toward me, their eyes reflecting an otherworldly glow. They beckoned, urging me to join their spectral gathering. I recoiled, realizing the truth. I had crossed into a realm where the living and the dead coexisted for a brief, haunting moment. With a newfound resolve, I retraced my steps, avoiding the forbidden corridors. As the first light of dawn broke, the funeral home returned to its silent slumber. I stumbled out, shaken but alive. The manager met me at the entrance, his eyes unreadable. As I left that accursed place, he whispered, "You've survived, but remember, the boundary between the living and the dead is thin here. Respect it, and you'll find safety." My advice to anyone who might cross paths with the supernatural: heed the rules, respect the boundaries, and never underestimate the thin veil that separates the living from the dead. Some secrets are best left undisturbed, for the consequences can be far more chilling than the darkest of nightmares.